What made you realize your partner was lying to you? In 2012, I realized my now ex-wife had been lying about a few very important parts of our 12-year marriage. Through the years, we had ups and downs, and in 2012, it all came to a head. At the time I was in school getting a degree in computer science. It was something I felt I was lacking and was holding me back, even after many years working in the field. We agreed that our children would stay with her and I would take them every Wednesday and every other weekend, and then when I finished school in a few months, we would switch to 50-50. The agreement was that instead of paying her child support, she couldn't have the extra income to qualify for a low-income apartment. I would pay all the expenses of the kids, like childcare, clothing, shoes, school supplies, etc. A month after the separation, she was dating a couple different guys and ended up settling with one who quickly moved in with her. Evidently, she found out the apartments only check income during the application process, and if you begin to earn more money or if you bring in a new resident who also has income, they don't care. I made a huge mistake, and I told my ex that I should track down the new boyfriend and let him know how messed up in the head she and her family were. Surprisingly, I received an email from him a few hours later, basically saying, "Here I am, what do you want to tell me?" I spent days writing out every detail of how she had lied and manipulated everything over the course of our relationship and how she had learned it all from her parents. The reply was basically, "All I see is a bitter ex trying to badmouth this wonderful woman." What I didn't realize was that this man was a huge narcissistic egomaniac, and somehow I had challenged his ego. Now it was his mission in life to make me pay. My ex went along because she wanted to see me suffer. They had a common enemy, and he was taking the reins. This guy took my email as an affront and a challenge. I ended up learning that he took over everything in regards to the divorce, child support, and communicating with me, while pretending to be her. After I finished school, I asked to get the kids 50-50, and we ended up in court, and I was denied because the kids were settled and supposedly didn't want the change. The kids began counseling. Then I received the papers for child support. Again, we ended up in court, and I began paying almost $1,000 a month, which is what the state said was fair based on the timeshare and our income differences. She went out and traded her 5-year-old Ford for a brand new BMW. All the while telling the kids I wasn't paying support. My ex and her boyfriend would sit around their dining table with friends, with the kids in the living room, and talk about how I was such a boss and plan how to screw me over in court. They even had a name for the group that they called the Dream Team. The more the kids heard, the more and more they resented me. My teenage son began getting lavish with gifts. A BMX bike worth thousands, bought on sale, of course. A TV and PlayStation in his bedroom, with the latest Call of Duty games, which are totally age inappropriate, and we had agreed he wouldn't be allowed to play until he was older. A mini fridge in his bedroom was stocked with Gatorade and candy bars. Brand new iPhone. Being that the kids were in counseling, the counselor would write to the courts, on behalf of my ex, and say the kids kept saying they didn't want a custody change. The odd part was that when the kids were with me, they were happy, and my daughter even mentioned a few times that she didn't understand why the timeshare wasn't even. And when I told her to talk to the counselor, she stopped talking and wouldn't respond to me for the rest of the afternoon. You see, because of the kids' schedule, all of the counseling sessions were during their mother's time, and I barely had the kids. I did have a few sessions with each child at the beginning. I would email the counselor about things the kids would say, like when they would tell me about how they were being involved in adult or court discussions, which went directly against court orders, but my ex had the counselor around her finger. I ended up learning from another counselor that my ex tried the same thing to sway the counselor against me using fabricated stories of cheating and abuse, but the second counselor didn't buy it. I think the first one did. My son was also allowed, or told, to read all the court documents that they filed. The boyfriend was a master at finding snippets of emails or text messages that looked like I was saying something totally different than what was intended when taken in context with the entire conversation or entire sentence. But of course he was never allowed to read my responses or the actual emails or conversations where the manipulated data was coming from. Of course, my responses to the court showed everything. On one afternoon, I was supposed to pick up the kids from our daughter's daycare. When I showed up, my son refused to go with me. I sent a text to my ex, asking what was going on, because he had said his mom told